Hello, and welcome to this video where I will explain to you how my chatbot works. So first of all, this chatbot is about Game of Thrones, a show that came out a couple of years ago and had a huge fan base. So I'm gonna start by explaining to you what this chatbot does. So it answers questions related to the show. It answers general questions about the show, like when did it come out, who was the cast, what genre it is, but it also answers other questions like who is this character or what language did they speak in this region in the movie. So it is divided in two parts. The first part, which is for the newbies and the people that want to learn more about the show and see if they want to watch it, and the other part is for the people that have watched the show and they want to like maybe get some memories back or check their information about it. So let's start from here. I'll go to the top of the code. So all of these are the imports I have used. And then these two are the URLs for the APIs I have used. And then here we've got just declaring some lists that I'm using later. And this is also just transforming the input. We're going to come back to this part later, but for now, I just want to show you how it answers the basic questions for the user. So we're going to start with that. I'm just going to start the software right now. All right, so we see here that it says all good, but again, it's because it's going and checking if there are no contradictions in the file. Coming back later to that. But for now, it says, welcome, I am Faceless Man. He's a character from the show. I have a mission to answer your questions. So we're going to start by the first question, which is quite basic. And we're just gonna ask it what genre is Game of Thrones. Alright, so we've got our first answer here. It says that Game of Thrones is a drama and adventure and fantasy. Let's get back to the code and see how that worked. So we start here by on the main loop, and then we get the user input, we store it as user input, and then we get the response agent, and then we assign it to an answer. After we've done that, we're going to try to parse the answer for the format we want because we have to use params later in order to give here the accurate information so we can retrieve it. So then we go if CMD equals 1, which is the scenario that is stored in the XML here, as we can see it. Scenario number 1, what genre is, and you can also see that I added other type of questions, what category is, for example. It will come up here, get a response from the API, and then if it gets code 200, it's going good for so far. Loads the response, and it goes through the JSON response to reach what we want. And what we want here is genres. So it goes to genres, and here I just created a loop to make it printing easier and get every single element that is inside genres. So this is the first example. We can now move on to another example like the second, or because all of these are quite similar, I'm going to show you some of them, the most interesting ones. Um, I like the cast one. It's personally one of my favorites because a lot of people really want to know who played in a movie before they watch it. So let's ask it who played game. And here, just the same path essentially as the other one, except that here it went for CMD. Uh, it was 5. Yes, it went for CMD 5, and it got the information from the URL. It went through the right part of it, and then just printed the name of the cast. If we go to my bot basics, we can also see it here, and the cast is over here. Who played in, who was in. Both questions are going to be answered. Okay, so for now, all of these first examples answered pretty basic questions. Now we want to answer, for example, a question for someone who has watched the show for quite a long time and is familiar with it. So let's ask it, who is Jon Snow, for example? And we can see that here for the characters, it's implemented in CMD number 10. So it comes to here, it requests the information in the URL, and it adds the params1, which is Jon Snow, and it converts it to a text. And then using Beautiful Soup, getting the page, and then we're going straight here where we're getting the content, and we're finding the paragraph in which they talk about Jon Snow. So here returns Jon Snow, born Aegon Targaryen, is the son of Lyanna Stark, etc. So it just gives us a who is Jon Snow, or at least what character is he, or what role did he play in the movie. Okay, there's another similar question which goes a bit into details into the show, which is languages. Like, for example, I ask it, what language they speak, let's say in Essos. Essos is just a region from the movie. And in contrast to Esteros, a diverse area of languages have been spoken in Essos. So we see again, same procedure, except that it goes for CMD number 9, gets the information from the URL, goes to the right path, finds the ID, gets the paragraph, and penetrates the text back. All right, so this was the rule base, and then we have also the similarity base, which we can test now by saying something like, let's say, who was or who is Cersei Lannister. And oh, I might have mistyped it. Let's say who is Arya, for example. So we can see that here we have stored as Arya Stark, but it still detects that Arya is Arya Stark. So it takes the similarity between this question and it does find the answer for it. Okay, now we move to the part B of the assignment, which is checking the facts. So we've got our KB file here, and we've already gave it some information about the characters in the show, like where they live, or are they part of this family, or are they God, are they working in the wall, stuff like that. We can start by asking it something like, I know that Jon is Stark. And it says you are right, because we have told it that Jon is Stark here. Now let's see if we tell it, I know that Jon is Lannister. It says no, because we also told it that Starks are not Lannisters. So it goes and it finds that Jon has been defined as someone who is a Stark, and if we tell it that he is a Lannister and Lannisters are not Stark, it just says no. Let's try to give it new information that it doesn't know about. let's say I know that Sansa is Stark. It will tell you noted. It means that it took the information, it checked it, it didn't find anything that it knows about it, so it's assuming that you're telling it something that is right, and it's telling you that it's noted. So we added it to the database. Now, let's try to give it, uh, let's try the second part of the part B, which is, oh, sorry, I'm going to explain the code for this one first. So, for the similarity base, we start by going to the CMD99. We open the file, the CSV file in which we have the recorded answers and questions. We read the questions, we tokenize them, we tokenize not only that, but also the user input. And then we move here, we just define what stop words are and we remove them because we don't really want them. And yeah, this here. And then we merge and we come here and we append it to the vector. Once appended to the vector, we're going to try to calculate the C and then the cosine. Once the cosine is calculated, what we're going to do is we're going to append it all to a list, and then we're going to get the maximum value of that list, which means the most similar answer to your question, or the most, or probably the answer you probably want. And then what we're going to do is we're not going to stick with that, but we're going to get the index of the maximum similarity level so we can retrieve the answer that matches that question. And then we go here. So there's a first scenario where the user might tell something that doesn't match with any of our with anything in our database. So it just returns him a 0, 0. But then it might return something that does exist in the database, and the similarity index goes and retrieves the right answer from the file as well. And so we move on to what I just did here, which is the I know that pattern. So it's CMD31. So here we pre-process the information, we get the object and the subject, and we split them with is, so we get the right format. And then here we try to read the expression, information desired format. So, and then after that, here I created another one, which is the opposite of this one, because we're trying to see if this information doesn't contradict anything in the file. So if our answer is true, which means this proves that there's nothing that contradicts anything that you said in the file, it will tell you you are right. If it finds that the answer is false, and it also finds out that there's something contradictory to what you're saying, it will tell you no, meaning you are wrong. Otherwise, if it finds that what you're saying is false, but not really, because it will go to else and it will append it as something new. So if you tell it something that doesn't contradict it, it will append it. Now let's check out the other function, which is the last one. So we can tell it something like check that John is Stark. Correct? We know from the KB file that I showed you earlier that we have assigned John to be Stark. So it will return that he is a Stark. Now let's say check that John is Lannister. It will tell you you're incorrect because you are, and it knows that John is definitely a Stark. Now let's give it something that it doesn't really know about. Let's say check that area is Lannister. It will tell you no idea because we have not fed it any information about area, so it doesn't know. Okay, coming back to the explanation of the code, it is pretty much what we did here, but we go again, we get the object, the subject, the expression in the opposite, the answer. We check if it's true, then you're correct. If it does not, if it finds an opposite, it will tell you that you're incorrect. But if it doesn't find anything that proves that you're incorrect, it will tell you, I have no idea. So we came to the conclusion of this. I hope you enjoyed the video, and goodbye.